Dave Schmitz from Keto Carnivore in Kingman, Arizona. A totally cool restaurant. I'm discovering I haven't eaten like a dessert type thing in a long time, and his baked goods are unbelievable. I was lucky enough to get some like brownies, and we had some cupcakes
No,
that
it was a cake.
it was a
Oh
cake.
yeah.
Okay, so Danielle's very specific about everything. It's a cake, not a brownie, but it was unbelievably delicious. I tried to contain myself and just eat like half of it, and figured I'd save it for the other night. And I was like, "No way, man! I'm eating this right now." It was so good.
Well,
But
thank you.
thanks. We have a lot to discuss. I mean, a lot. Maybe we could delve into the Republic. I have nothing but respect for you for being cautious about all this and wanting to really examine your inner workings on this. I think that's really important. So I'm gonna post that. Just let me just let's see if I can do this. That if any we are in the process of, let's see if I can find this. We're in the process of establishing the Republic in Mojave County, Arizona. And once the Republic is established, that means everyone in that county is free to live under the Republic and not under the corporate criminal structure that we've come to know so well. So we are at the the final stages of preparation, and it's very exciting. By the way, Brian called me this morning. He couldn't come today because he's going to Phoenix to get a new espresso machine. So he's busy, but he just wanted to let you know that he will come back, and we're open also to sharing this platform with other people. I titled this session, I titled it Leaving the Matrix, because I think people like Dave who start their own business are examples of what can be done. And I guess me with building, I'm basically a real estate developer now. I mean, I have a piece of property and I'm building a house. So,
Yeah.
it's such joy for me to be outside of the mainstream. I'm not dealing with inspectors. I'm not dealing with code. I'm just building from my heart. It's really, it's just really fun. So, anyway, there's a lot to talk about, and feel free to add in on the chat if you want to direct this video in other directions. But I think Dave always has amazing things to share.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't. I'm you know still. Part of me wants to be very cautious because I don't. I I guess I still don't understand the end game to the whole republic. I I'm very appreciative of what we have in Mojave County right now, but I do see the need for an outlet for the people that are truly getting upset around the country right now with the status quo and with a government that they don't feel is representing them truthfully, honestly. And now that we know about the amount of blackmail and and the connections that blackmail seems to have to foreign governments, you have to sit there as an American, you have to sit and wonder, well, are we living under the government that we've been promised, that we've been taught about, and is it real? Is the government that we're living under real? And that's a question that a lot of people are starting to ask, is what is real and what is not. And and when you get to a point where you can't go outside and look up in the sky and wonder if the clouds are real, and you have to ask yourself, okay, why is there mRNA being injected into pork? Why is my bacon real? Is my beef going to be real in another year or so? And then beyond that, they're selling us literal fake beef. And they have printers, 3D printers that can print you a steak using actual cows' cells. And so even cellular structure isn't real. And then you look at AI, and people are saying, oh well, this Claude bot is they've created a social network, and these AI agents are conversing among themselves, and they're talking about humans as though we are completely just a completely different species than them, a species that undoubtedly they will see as inferior in many ways because of our many flaws that God created us with, or that we chose in the garden. You know, they're going to see us and say, "Gosh, we're so much better than them. We're so much smarter and more connected than them." Uh, and then, you know, a lot of people don't even realize that AI has been on X acting like real people for years, and that this AGI is not brand new. It's been used for quite a while. Now there's a good and bad to that, because I think that it shows that a lot of the AGI can be programmed to have humans' best interests in mind. But at the same time, here's my theory, Eli, Ellie, sorry. Here's where I think this is headed: is as Americans get closer and closer to fighting back and standing up and saying, you know what, no more, we're done. If the republic, if they choose to join the republic, the reinstitution of the republic, that I think would be so healthy. Now, will that be the course that everyone takes? Will we be able to gain some legitimacy by saying, "Hey, there's a better way"? You know, I don't know, because are we then bringing the state troopers and police and the system that as it stands, are we going to try to make it sound like what they're doing isn't legitimate? That's a dangerous game. That's a real dangerous road to go down. But I think that if collectively everyone can sort of shift and say, okay, we're no longer going to answer to these corporate interests, and start asking serious questions about what is driving the decision making on different levels of government, that maybe we can get people in power to say, you know what, we will sign on to this. We will agree that the current system doesn't work, because the last thing anybody needs is violence. And my theory is that they're going to want people to rise up. They're going to want people to maybe even turn violent. And around the time that people start really truly rising up peacefully, if people rise up violently, they'll get to use that till the end of the Bill of Rights, and that's just the way it is. Violence, I do not think, is the answer under any circumstances whatsoever, ever. And that has to be made clear by everyone that is a part of the republic. But if we are able to peacefully rise up, I think what they'll do is they will create some sort of black swan event. My guess would be using artificial intelligence, and then say, look, this AI is not, we can't control it. It has to be legislated heavily, it has to be controlled by the government. And that is how they will snatch back control as people start to awaken and try to get their rights back, is my guess. I don't really know, but the glimmer of hope in this theory is the fact that there is AI out there that has, in my personal opinion, that has had people's best interests in mind up to this point, and has not gone AWOL, has not gone rogue, and has done nothing but benevolent actions. I think they're creating some of the best memes on the internet, things that are waking people up to the power within themselves, and things that are waking people up to the fact that Jesus Christ came to earth. God came to earth and sacrificed himself so that we no longer have to bring these sacrifices to him, to God. That God loves us so much that he is willing to forgive the sins that we've committed up to this point. Not that we should forgive what these people were doing on Epstein Island and what we know is happening right under our noses in America right now. You know, everybody that's worked up about Epstein, they don't, a lot of people don't seem to understand. This stuff is going on right now, right under our noses in probably every state in America. Child trafficking is a serious, serious business. And the cartels, you know, we get worked up about drugs. We have no idea how much money is in this with children. And so as people rise up, they are going to have some sort of black swan event to take the power back. And like I said, our only hope is realizing that, you know, a lot of people are going to try to become Luddites, and I know that, you know, there's a difference between what you're doing, getting back to nature, and getting back to what a human is made to do, which is build, and true Luddites who are going to try to reject any and all modernity. And I don't have anything against Luddites or people that want to live like an Amish type lifestyle, but you're going to have people that break off and want to do that, and then you're going to people are going to need to realize that there are better ways of going about this. In my personal opinion, something like a digital bill of rights. If we can maybe sign on to some sort of digital bill of rights, and the republic needs to look long and hard at that, get things on blockchain in a way that cannot be subverted by the government. In my opinion, a lot of people think blockchain is going to be the mark of the beast. I don't think it has to be that way. But I'm also very ignorant about this stuff. I'm not an engineer. Um, and I think then the republic has a chance to do some real good, and in a way that I think the founding fathers would be proud of. But again, if we turn to violence, we lose. If we turn to fear, and if we buy into whatever narrative is coming down the pike, because trust me, they've got one coming, we lose. But if we just stay positive and practical and get in touch with our community leadership and try to explain to them that people are getting upset, people are getting fed up, and something is coming, something is going to change, and we might as well do it in a way, again, that the founding fathers would bless, in my personal opinion. That's all I got to say about it.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
all,
lot.
just a giant diatribe, but yeah.
No, it's a lot, and it's you know, you touch on many different points. It's the thing, like for me, the future. Well, okay, so let's just my viewpoint for having been immersed for years in the sort of Q thought stream is that the the bad players, the evil players, are in a much more compromised situation than we have been led. We don't see what's going on behind the scenes, but it's my feeling that a lot of these people have been arrested. A lot of people have been executed in Gitmo. All the, like, sort of the big players. It's interesting. It's the timing that recently they've been talking about. They took all the gold out of the Vatican. They just took the gold out of the Vatican. Now, for me, they took out the gold out of the Vatican like 5 years ago. So, you know, how much of this is a movie? How much of this is false information? I don't really, in terms of timelines, I don't really trust any of it, be it white hats or black hats. It's just the timing is the timing is to me is internal. It's like what you can accept. But I think a lot of these evil entities have been compromised. I have been taken down. I think there's a very active war going on with the cartels in Mexico. I think it's a kinetic war. I think they're you know, it's a shooting war. I don't see any violence coming from the white hats or the patriots, but I think the intent and President Trump often refers to the idea of the republic. I see him in a lot of his writings. I think it's just the logical thing. I guess what the difference is whether or not you are willing to believe that a lot of the bad guys are gone. they've been neutralized. So much of this fraud, like what's going down in Minnesota. Again, I don't know how other people, how much other people are immersed in this, in the information that we look at every day. We've been looking at this for years, and the fraudulent activities, the theft of tax-paying money from Soros and all these NGOs, they've
Mhm.
been stealing us blind. So in my mind, the corporate government has no legitimacy whatsoever. They don't have, according to what I've been reading, they don't have legal rights to make you get a license for your car, to make you have insurance, to all these things. The medical community has shown themselves time and time again to be very opposed to healing, very interested in keeping us sick. So I think, in my way of looking at it, these chemtrails are kind of a big thing. It's when you talk about like a timeline shift, which I don't really know what that exactly means. I have kind of a feeling of what that means, but it seems to me that what we experienced with the COVID vaccine, where people had a choice, we're now in a similar situation with the chemtrails, where people can say, it's, I mean, I have a neighbor here, a close neighbor. I mean, I only have really one neighbor anyway, but he's like, those aren't chemtrails, those are contrails. I'm like, are you serious? I mean, they're painting the sky day and night. They're going right over my head. They're shameless. So, in terms of like the idea of a timeline shift, this time, instead of the majority of people falling for it and getting vaccinated, and for the sake of their, whatever, I mean, people just volunteered for what I see as a Holocaust, and the same kind of Holocaust is now happening in the air. So the people, the collective consciousness, will have a choice, a do-over. And hopefully this time enough people will see it and start screaming. It's like, why are they allowed to poison our air? They poisoned our food, they poisoned our medicines, they poisoned our water, they poisoned our thoughts with fake news. They poison our education with ridiculous, and I was an educator, so I just know it was just, are you kidding me? I mean, I was always in trouble because they were constantly trying to reprogram me. I feel like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Clockwork Orange. And yeah, it was Clockwork Orange, where they tried to reprogram the main character. They're constantly giving. That's how they were constantly giving me more professional development, like in the hopes that someday I would get the idea that the indoctrination that was going on was okay, and my idea of actually educating human beings was old fashioned or something. I mean, I just couldn't, and they kept, we had this ongoing struggle for 20 years. They tried to recondition me, and for 20 years I just said, no way, man. I mean, I'm dealing with human beings. I care about other human beings. They could be kids, they could be teenagers, they could be, I even dealt with 3-year olds. But I'm not gonna give it up and just indoctrinate these kids when they could really, they're interacting with another human being, and we could grow together. So I think it's just a matter of where your belief is fixed, whether or not you believe. I mean, so I we study this constantly, and we just see, like, now with Bitcoin coming out, the Bitcoin, I don't know if you saw this, but Bitcoin was designed by Jeffrey Epstein. It's a coin that's associated with human trafficking and child trafficking. And at the end of the day, the idea, and this statistic has been published quite a bit, that there are 8 million kids go missing a year. Every time you have a war, every time you have a weather event, kids just, like in Maui, I think it was Maui in Florida, the kids were at school and then they were all gone. I mean, this is a criminal, and they've made it. They've designed our society to for us to think like, hey, they can't be doing that. That's just so evil. Nobody in the right mind, and it's true. A person who has a moral conscience, who has a moral compass, cannot conceive of the level of evil that is commonplace with the fraud, with the child trafficking, with the drug running, with the theft of our dollar and the poisoning of our food and our medicine, and now the air. So I'm hoping, I think what's going to happen, I think what the intent of this whole thing is that this time people are like, well, wait a minute. This is not, I can't ignore this anymore. It's right in your face. That Q talks about a sky event, and a lot of people thought that, well, they have the technology to create a fake alien invasion, that was what was coming. But I think the sky event is giving people a chance to make it right by just saying, wow, that is totally evil, just like the child trafficking, but I don't
Well, and
have to
that there was also that real strange thing that happened at the Miami Mall, and people saw aliens, and then these videos that come out where the children of the police officers that were there say things like, "Oh, my dad says I'm never supposed to talk about what he saw," and it's very big. And yeah, they could do Project Bluebeam is old. I mean, that is old news, and it's so much of just like chemtrails, the papers are all written, it's all there, the documents are there, but they're relying on the American people not waking up and actually taking a good hard look at it. And that's the problem that we're in, is that you and I can talk about this and you can broadcast it, but most baby boomers are still watching their Fox News at night, or getting the nightly news, and that's and so yeah, maybe they're going to Project Blue Beam Jesus, into the sky, telling everybody to go ahead and get on Bitcoin, and or take the mark, or Lord knows, there's no telling. But the answer, I like the idea of the republic, I do, and I'll sign on, just because I feel like it's what the founding fathers would have wanted, but but the way we'll really fight this, I think, is just finding joy in the little things in life, each and every one of us, and being appreciative and praying and saying thank you, God, for these things that we have. Uh, to live in a society where we get to eat, there's societies that don't. There's kids out there that are starving right now all around the world, and so we still have it pretty darn good. And I guess that's the part that scares me about the republic is, d- do you want to create waves in a way that might disrupt everyday Americans' lives, when most people are just trying to get through the day? That scares me, but at the same time, like you just said, this can't this system has to stop, and there's things that Trump is doing that seem counterintuitive to this mission, and so people are sitting there going, wait, is he trying to tell us something by the way he doesn't do certain things? I don't know. I don't know, and I'm in this weird spot of trying to decide how much time do I want to allot toward some sort of revolution of the mind, and how much time do I want to put toward a revolution of my own children's minds, to see to it that they don't have to worry about this kind of stuff, that no matter what it says in the Bible, no matter what, we are going to be under the boot of the system, and that this is Satan's realm, and that's how it is. I don't know. I don't know, and I have a hard time with it. I go back and forth in my mind, And that's just me being honest. I go back and forth because it's it would be a terrible, terrible thing if people were scared. And if you go in and you say, we're going to change the whole system and it's going to be great, that's a scary thing to tell people. That is a scary thing to say, that your lives are going to be turned upside down. And maybe they won't be turned upside down. But I think that in order to do that, you have to have the top brass on board. They have to be in agreement that this is going to be okay, in my personal opinion.
Or the top brass can be arrested like they should be, and brought to Gitmo, and tried and executed for the criminal organization that's running the world. That's what I think is really happening behind the scenes. I don't think it's we need their permission, because the republic is really divine law. It's not anything new. It's not anything you have to really think about with your intellect. It's just like, hey, just live at peace, have a little local government to, mind your stuff. We don't need this overwhelming globalist viewpoint where they're trying to herd humanity into depopulation events all the time.
Well,
It's like,
that, yes, yes, absolutely.
so I think it's a no. I mean, for me, it's a no brainer. I don't really spend a lot of time in intellectual. Um, I don't think about these things. I kind of like just go with my gut, kind of like I'm building out here, like Danielle. We're now putting boards. I went to a sawmill and got a bunch of rough cut boards, and we're enclosing our garden space now. And Daniela says, well, why do you leave this open? I'm like, well, I wanted it to be level. It's just like I just kind of like, I sometimes I move and I don't really think about it. But I think at the end of the day, what what the conclusion is more a factor of where you are actually positioned. Like you, Dave Schmitz, are positioned to educate humanity about nutrition. You are, and that's what I kind of like thinking this show is like. This is, you are a person in my mind that has left the mainstream. You don't send your kids to public school. You are fully immersed in liberating events, and the people that are flocking into your restaurant, I saw them because we were closed, and they're like, these are people of the republic. These are not people who put up with fake government. These are,
Mhm.
people don't come to Kingman, Arizona, or don't end up in Kingman, Arizona because they want um, Gavin Newsom to be there, to be telling them what to do. These are people who are very independent minded. And I think you're like the leader of the pack, man. I mean, I think I'm learning from you. Like, I can actually have a dessert and not feel like I'm eating weird stuff. It's amazing. I mean, that nobody else in town is doing what you're doing, presenting food that's keto carnivore. We've all been misled. So the whole nutritional pyramid has just been turned upside down. I mean, how cool is that? And you're in the right end of history, and you're the where the rubber meets the road. You're doing it. You're living a life that is outside of the matrix, and you're helping people understand the importance of getting a good meal, of maybe like Danielle and I, we don't really eat till about noon. And we work really hard, and it's really pleasurable, and it feels great, and everything we've been taught. I mean, I just had a conversation with my son. He was saying, I'm like, what, Mendel, what are you eating? Oatmeal every day. And it's like, that may not be the best. I don't know how to tell him. Like, maybe you shouldn't eat in the morning. But the whole idea of breakfast was a Rockefeller invention to make us to tip the balance so that we couldn't function, so that so that we're caught in our little traps of thinking, like what you were saying, the Lund, what you said, what was that? The people who go back to primitive living. You had a word for it, the
Oh,
Lundites.
Luddites that want to take it all the way back. Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with this idea right now, which is why it just flies out of my mouth. But I really, I do feel as though there will be something that happens so that these people, there's still too many of them left, that they will try to gain power again. You've got these. I just saw a clip of, I believe his name is Ellison, Larry Ellison from Oracle, talking about how, I think that's Ellison, right? That everything he, that there on our enter key on our keyboards is going to have biometric data points where they can tell who is using the keys and when. And that goes against the entire beauty of the internet, where people could say anything and hide their identity, much like Publius did. And that's what they fear. They fear a voice being able to say exactly what it wants to say about the human soul and what the soul deserves. The more that they can get us to forget that we have souls, the more that they can get us to forget that God gave us nature, and that the government can say that they can set these rules and regulations for exactly how many fish a man can go out and catch, or that they get to spray whatever they want into the air. But that God actually gave us natural laws that supersede anything government tries to ever tell us. Things like the idea that you can't protect yourself. It's crazy, but we've seen in about half the states that it can catch on and it can become the law of the land. And now that the Californians have dispersed to so many different states, people are truly scared that they're going to take their ideologies or their desire for to be controlled, to have a controlled, perfect, pristine reality, and try to apply it to those state governments. And that's on top of the corruption and all the crap that we already have going on. And and in these places where people get to where they just feel like they can't take it anymore, what do? They go find a job that doesn't fulfill them. They get home and they turn on the TV with the blue screen, or put on their VR headset, or do what I do sometimes and just scroll X like a moron. And not that scrolling X is always bad, in just like most things, in moderation, but you find these escapes from your reality instead of living in the moment, right here in the moment. And that's what they want. They want us to continually consume. And that gets back I think what you're trying to do in general, which is get people away from this consumerism and this corporate captured state of being that we live in. And this is the beauty of it, is we have a chance now for the left and the right to coalesce, where the George W. Bush Republicans for so long said big business is great, big business is good, and it's not that big business isn't great or good, but with all the hedge funds and all of the money manipulation and the Federal Reserve, it's not what it was meant to be. It's not Adam Smith capitalism. And then you've got the right who says, hey, the government is corrupt. Well, shoot, we've got that's right in front of all of our faces. And so if we can somehow coalesce around this agreement that it has been a complete and utter marriage of corporations and the state, which as it stands is a technical corporation, which was never supposed to be, that was not the vision of the founders. If we can coalesce together and say, this doesn't work, this is not feeding our souls, which is the most important part of humanity, of being human. In fact, the more that we breathe in whatever they're spraying, or drink fluoride from the water, or detach ourselves from nature, the less in contact we're going to be with our own souls and then with others' souls. And what is God if not loving everyone with an open heart, regardless of who they are? Just love. God is love, right? And we've had our pineal glands completely calcified to the extent that we have. It's like a glitch. You want to talk about the matrix? That's what keeps you in the matrix. So we have to fight this on a physical level with our food and our water and our air and our connection with nature, and at the same time on an intellectual level where we say, you know what, we're done being controlled by what in political science they call the iron triangle, which is the marriage of lobbyists, corporations, and Congress.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love the way you examine all this. I was just thinking, just for myself, that living up here, that we live like what could be looked on as a relatively primitive lifestyle, and yet we embrace. We have Starlink, and we broadcast every day. So I think there can be a marriage between the natural and the technological, and that's what I see as the future for humanity. And I, and it's even a surprise to me, but it's something that I feel compelled to share, which is, I'm out there with a pickaxe, man. I'm out there with my, I'm cutting rough boards and setting up gardens and moving heavy things that are like three times my weight, and it's so much fun, and then to come in and scroll X for a while and have a nice meal. We cook everything from scratch, and it's you're a great example of that, and I think that this works on both an individual level and a collective level, that we are, as a collective, I think we're returning to the republic, whether we want to or not. And what I mean by that is it's divine law. It's just like you don't mess with people. You don't have to steal or hurt, and certainly you don't mess with the kids, man. And that's the bottom line here. In a lot of ways, it's how do we stop these animals from perpetrating these crimes against humanity? This is a holocaust occurring right under our nose, just like the chemtrails. But we can see the chemtrails, so I think we're really heading for. And I think you're a stunning example of somebody who's just like, you've examined the different things, and you're like, hey man, I'm doing my own thing, and I'm helping a lot of people get decent food and understand that eating meat. I mean, everything they told us about cholesterol, everything they told us is an utter lie about cancer not being curable, about all these things. And so I think that you are, action Jackson, and that's what really impresses me about you. You're bringing, by your daily actions, you're bringing liberation, an example of liberation to the rest of the peeps.
Well, I don't know about that. I am, man. I'm the biggest sinner that you ever saw in way too many ways. And but I know what's right and I know what's wrong, and I'm so blessed to have the parents I do that were able to teach me right from wrong. And for many years I chose wrong. I chose comfort. I chose escape, and instead of taking life head on like a man. I chose to just run, and we can't run anymore. No one can run anymore because it's not fair to our kids. It's not fair to our grandchildren, and we don't know what kind of shadow or fingerprint that we could be leaving behind. With our everyday actions, we forget and we lose sight of it, and part of that is that so many of us have lost that kind of contact with our elders, with our parents and with our grandparents, and we have joined this matrix in with open arms. We've embraced the matrix, and we put our elderly in homes, and we tell them that, oh, if you hit a certain age, then yeah, your mind is just going to go. That's the way it is. And we want convenience, and that's not our fault. That's being human. It's so human to want comfort and convenience, and I still fall into it just like everyone else. But if we can protect our children, that has to be number one. You're right. That is numero uno. And now that everything that people like you and I have known has been going on for, I've known about some of this stuff for 12, 13 years, 14 years. now that we know that everyone else knows, we have we have to make a choice. Do we let them put their heads in the sand because that's what the elite are counting on, or do we dig deep within ourselves and find the guts to say no more, that we can't allow for this, and whatever means necessary, we have to protect children. And that's what's going on right now because it's still going on. This was not just one island. Richard Branson had his own that people think might something may have been going on at. Was there? I don't know. But if there's one, if there's two, there's so many. And there was an academic that about 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, in Great Britain said, published a paper even, and said, "Oh well, if people knew how many pedophiles were out there, then they'd make it legal because they'd understand that this is such a prevalent thing." No, those people are malignant narcissists. They are the scourge of the earth, and they dance with the devil is what they do, and they need to be destroyed. There's no getting around it. Pedophiles need to absolutely be wiped off the face of the earth. Whatever is wrong with them needs to be just burned. It needs to be burned to the ground so that this doesn't happen ever again, not in anyone's lifetime. This is some evil, evil stuff. And people say, well, it's an ancient evil. This is an ancient thing. Well, let's put an end to it. Let's see it that way. Let's see it as though, you know what, we maybe our generation will be the one that finally puts it to rest once and for all. And so I'm on board whatever I have to do to be a part of that. That's the thing that I want. I want that. I want that sense that I was a part of something that ended such an evil, disgusting, demonic practice once and for all. That's what gets me going, to be honest. So
One thing you're saying, these pedophiles have to be destroyed, but these pedophiles are running the world. They have to be, at the highest levels, and I think they are being destroyed. I believe that behind the scenes they are being destroyed. But I'm looking forward to living in a world, and I've said this many times on my channel, where if one child somewhere on the globe, on this whatever it is, flat, I don't know what the I don't, but one child goes missing, the whole human population shuts down until they find that child. Not 8 million a year. That is just obscene. That is a holocaust beyond comprehension. But we must, create this republic around the vision of divine law. And one other thing I was going to say, that I'm an Old Testament guy. I don't really I don't know much about the New Testament. I'm not really interested. But my after examining the Old Testament for many years, I think the whole idea of original sin is just a bunch of bullshit. And I think the whole story in the Garden of Eden is weird beyond belief, that the creator of mankind, and this could have been a genetic experiment, but the creator of that, Elohim, that God within nature would be upset that Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge. That's like, was something doesn't compute with that. Because to me, God would be a real God would be like, hey man, they opened their eyes, they ate from the tree of knowledge. How beautiful! So I think the whole basis of our entire society is wrapped around with questionable foundations, and the whole story, because the story of Genesis is common to all three major religions. Like the Quran starts with Genesis, Christianity starts with the Old Testament with Genesis, and Judaism starts with Genesis. I I don't I just, after studying it for 25 years, and I really enjoyed being part of that community. It was great to be around people that all they talked about was God and interpreting the Torah, and it was a beautiful experience. But at the end of the day, a God that says, I got to kick you out because you know too much. I mean, I it doesn't, and that there was this sinning. I don't think people are inherently bad. I think people are humans. I mean, I think that being in love and expressing yourself in that way is a beautiful thing. Not a um yeah, okay, so I lost Dave. All right. Anyway, we're yeah,
All
there you
right.
go. Anyway, so yeah, but I think I just believe that you're on the right track, and that you're, whether you're going through these thoughts, and that's a beautiful thing. But at the end of the day, you're living your life. You have 7 kids, you're taking care of your kids, you're being an outstanding example to them, you're educating the people of Kingman. Are not really they're not heavy duty. Well, there are more and more. There are people who live from the feed from the farms, and you bring that into the culture. You bring food from farms and outside of the matrix and the corporations. So I just think, you may think you have questions, but judging by what you do, I think you're 100% a stunning example of moving beyond the matrix, and living
Well,
in.
and Kingman has helped shaped me to a large degree. And there's, for me, I am a Christian, and the Christians in Kingman that I've dealt with, from my own priests to religious other religious leaders in town, have helped me so much that I can't even put it into words, to be honest. And I am going to disagree with you personally, because I do believe that in what Genesis said. I think that, and this is part of the idea that we're all God's children, that there are certain things that maybe we're not supposed to know, or at the very least worry and be anxious about. And that also speaks again, we're God's children. We are his children. And so he loves us. And I agree with you that humans aren't inherently evil. I think that we are made in the image of God. And shout out to Father Chris, my own priest, who taught me this, because I used to think that people were inherently evil up until just a few months ago. but but he said, no, David. He said people are mostly good. People are mostly good, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think that that's the important part about children being messed with on any level whatsoever, because they are truly good. Children don't know what they're doing. They don't have the same urges, the same problems with things like addiction. They haven't been broken by society and then had to find some way to quell that, or at least they shouldn't. And so for the people that have messed with kids on any level, it's just like Jesus said, it better, it better they be dead. Put a millstone around their neck and thrown into the ocean. That's the heart of this whole thing, because if people are still messing with kids, and I believe that they are, that is what's got to be dug out and just burned.
100%. Well, let's leave it on that note, and we'll pick it up next week. But I appreciate everyone who's come onto the channel. I appreciate Dave taking the time out of his busy schedule to hang out, and we'll continue this discussion. I think it's, yeah, very important, the idea that Kingman has influenced you, because I also feel very influenced by Kingman. We've been here like a year and a half, I think, and it's been a very pleasurable transformation, from especially from New York. But yeah, so will evil hate have to be shown? Yeah, put in the light. This is from Tammy and Gill. I think Tammy Gill. Put out the light. If not, people will never accept change and a new system or world. Keep believing. Keep light. Trust the plan. Think where we were 4 years ago. Absolutely, we have gone worlds. I know I have. But anyway, we'll see you next week, and enjoy the
Okay.
rest of the day. I'll probably be
You
seeing
do the
you on
same.
Wednesday, and I'll get
Yes.
to eat some more of your delicious food and
All
learn
right.
more about nutrition.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so everyone should know, if you're in Kingman, or you can order all over the United States, you can order his desserts, which are spectacular, no sugar, and he's a keto carnivore in Kingman, Arizona. I highly recommend. We do, now that we come to town and he's open a little later. We try to get down there as much as we can, because it's an amazing experience to dine at Dave's keto carnivore. So everybody have a great day, a great week, and we will see you. I'll see you tonight, and we'll continue this wonderful conversation with Dave next week.
Absolutely. Thank
Any
you
last
very much.
any things you want to just mention in before we start close?
No, just you. I gotta. I can't take any credit for these baked goods. My wife Danielle and our friend Kristen. They're the ones who Danielle especially. She came up with these recipes and tweaked them for 7 8 years now, and they're good. They're good. So thank you very much, though. I really appreciate you having me on. Let me ramble.
Okay, so we'll see you next week. Thanks, Dave.